Welcome back from lunch. Everybody feel free to take a seat. We got room in the front if you haven't found one already. For those of you joining us virtually, we know we had a few issues with our live stream. Don't worry, everything's recorded. We will get it to you after the event, and we hopefully have worked through all of those technical kinks. We really appreciate your patience and are excited that you are able to continue to participate with us today. For those of you here in person, we hope you enjoyed the lovely Northern California weather. It isn't always like this, but we have ordered the weather, and it's on point today. And I hope that everybody took their homework seriously, both the homework Colby gave you, but also, the chance to meet somebody new. It's really easy when we come to these things to gravitate towards the people we've talked to all the time. It is lovely to get to see old friends, but I'm going to continue to encourage everybody to reach out and meet new people. Throughout the morning, you might have noticed a little something going on over here in the corner. I don't know if you can see it on the virtual event, but we have a fabulous woman who is sketching out and creating graphic scribes of the speaker's concepts. And doing those drawings is Marion Powell, Ferolyn Powell's sister. Marion is a certified graphic facilitator who helped illustrate the concepts our speakers talked about last year, and we are so excited you're gracing us with your presence and your artistry here again today. And last year, we also were honored that she could come up here to help present the Ferolyn Powell Award with us. And not only do we have Marion here today, but we also have Liz McDermott, Ferolyn's sister as well. In addition to their own amazing career accomplishments, Marion and Liz are working with the Ferolyn Fellowship, a mentoring program started to continue the work Ferolyn did as a mentor to emerging leaders. And as we talk about this afternoon, we're really excited to talk about what this award means. The Ferolyn Powell Leadership Award recognizes individuals that exemplify the values that Ferolyn lived and led by. Recipients embody persistence, passion, dedication to innovation and patience, and commitment to mentoring others and advancing diversity in our fields. On behalf of MedTech Women, the recipient of the 2023 Ferolyn Powell Award is Julie Tyler, Senior Vice President. Julie is Senior Vice President and President of Abbott's Vascular Business. One of Ferolyn's career highlights is the work that she did leading eValve from an early-stage medical device startup to a successful acquisition by Abbott, and continued to see the program through FDA approval of the MitraClip, which is a novel implant for mitral valve repair. This novel implant was originally incorporated into Abbott Vascular's product portfolio, which Julia was a part of and now leads, and so in some ways, this is a bit of a full circle moment. Working on MitraClip is where I crossed paths with Ferolyn as a young and impressionable R&D engineer. She was GM of Abbott's structural heart division, and under her leadership and in the culture she helped set, I had the opportunity to work on a groundbreaking, first-to-market therapy that she helped bring to life. Early in my time there, we ran into substantial technical challenges. We were in the middle of trying to get FDA approval, finish a clinical trial, and meet the demands of all the compassionate use requests we had, and then we had a product recall. The team was working many nights and weekends, and morale was super low. One afternoon, Ferolyn had called an all-team meeting, which turned out to be a grounding and motivational moment for all of us. She brought us back to why we're all working so hard on the novel therapy by resharing the origin story, and then, along with the rest of the leadership team, Liz, I think you might have been there too, took time to read us letters from patients whose lives were directly impacted by the device. I can tell you, there weren't many dry eyes in the house. In a similar vein, like Ferolyn, Julie is fiercely dedicated to patients. Julie has witnessed the inequities in the healthcare system firsthand. Both her mother and aunt suffer from cardiovascular disease. In addition, Julie's daughter was born with a congenital heart defect. In 2020, almost 700,000 people in the United States died from heart disease, 1 in every 5 deaths. Of those, more than 300,000 were women. Yet despite the increases in awareness over the past decade, only 56% of women recognize heart disease as their number one killer. Julie's personal experiences fire her mission to bring awareness to heart health for women and underserved populations profoundly impacted by cardiovascular disease. And while statistics are important and they have a place in the conversation, Julie regularly shares her personal story to provide a sense of gravity of the situation and humanize it. In addition, she takes her passion for patients and health equity into her work every day in a way that we can and all should model. One of the ways she has done this is by challenging the status quo within the clinical trial space to advance diversity, leading her team to develop novel solutions to break down barriers to participation for all involved. And her team's work in addressing these disparities has led to increased participation from diverse doctors, diverse clinical investigators, and most importantly, diverse patients. It has helped become a blueprint for expanding access to underserved populations and held as a best-in-class model at Abbott. And not only that, she leads by examples and pulling others up with her by sharing those learnings across the entire industry. In addition to her day-to-day work in advancing our field and improving patients' lives, Julie is personally committed to improving access to education and unlocking opportunities for first-generation children attending college. Julie herself is a product of first-generation college students and has seen how transformative education can be. Like her work in clinical trials, she is breaking down barriers by establishing an annual scholarship at Jackson State University, her alma mater. The scholarship to support first-generation college students was established in 2009 in memory of her daughter. Julie joined Abbott in 1995 as a pharmaceutical sales rep and has ridden through so many positions of increasing responsibility across multiple Abbott businesses. Her unstoppable positive energy and deeply respected work ethic drive loyalty and high-performing diverse teams. With that, I'd love for Marion and Liz to come up. And everybody in this room, please join me in congratulating Julie Tyler as the recipient of this year's Ferolyn Powell Leadership Award.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. So I have to tell you, this is actually the first time that I have attended this conference. And so it's never going to be the same again. I mean, really, how do we beat this? First of all, let me just tell you, it's truly an honor to be here to accept this award. And to accept this award in the name of Ferolyn Powell, it means even more to me based upon her memory, the memories I have of her, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge a person here in this room. Her name is Priya Jagazia, and Priya is my colleague. I had no idea that Priya nominated me for this award. I had literally no clue. And I just want to thank Priya for her partnership. I've always known her to be someone who elevates and lifts other people up. So thank you so much for your partnership. Thank you so much for your sisterhood. And I feel so lucky and blessed to be able to work with so many talented women from Abbott who are actually here today. And I think that's an example of what leadership is. It's what Priya did for me today, so thank you for that. I also wouldn't be here today if it had not been for the support of my boss, Lisa Earnhardt, who is a previous recipient of this award. Working with Lisa is like taking a master class in leadership on a daily basis. And what she's taught me is how to continue to push the barriers and push the boundaries of things while at the same time bringing people along with you. And so she's done a great thing with me of teaching me how to do that, because I'm a bit of a bulldog, and I don't give up, and we'll go through that here in a minute. And I also want to take a moment and just acknowledge all of the support that I have received from not only my colleagues, but also from my family, because all of us here, we put in so much time that unless we have a village of people supporting us, it doesn't happen. So I was lucky enough to know Ferolyn. And so at the time that I knew Ferolyn, I think I was a vice president of marketing, vice president of U.S. marketing at the time. And so my interactions with her were limited, yet I would describe them as being impactful. And the reason why I say that is because she left me inspired by the fact that not only, she was intelligent. Everyone saw that she was intelligent. Everyone saw that she had so much knowledge that she was able to impart upon the organization. But what moved me was her passion for what she was doing. She was deeply passionate about the mission. And the other thing about Ferolyn, as you could tell from that picture, she was cool. She was a cool cat, but let me tell you why that was important. Because earlier in my career and earlier in my leadership, I remember someone telling me how I needed to conduct myself and how I needed to show up like this particular man. And I remember kind of wrestling with, who I was going to be and how I was going to show up as a leader. And to be able to look over and see someone like Ferolyn, who was confident, cool, who was so intelligent, but she just didn't try to act like the stereotypical leader, if you will. She was comfortable in her own skin. The other thing that I took from Ferolyn is that she was able to galvanize an organization to move forward or to take the heel, if you will, not because of positional power, not because of the position she was in, but she was able to influence people to really rally around something that was larger than themselves. And I think that that's what true leadership is at any level of the organization, the ability to influence others, and sometimes without having that direct responsibility. So when I reflect on her career and the impact that she's had on the medical device space, I don't necessarily look just at the roles and the titles she's had. I think about the influence and the impact that she's had. My late father used to always say, he was an educator, he would always say, let the works that you've done speak for you. And that's actually, we have it on the headstone at his gravesite. And initially, I thought he was meaning, don't boast, don't brag, don't use your voice. And I think we heard this morning, I think it's important for us to use our voice. But what my father was saying is don't confuse words and don't confuse activity for impact and for outcome. And over the course of my career, I've always tried to make sure that I was working on those things that mattered and making sure that you were able to bring people along and transform this industry in areas that absolutely make a difference. So you guys heard a little bit about my background, but what I will say is I've been with Abbott for next week will be actually 28 years. So as you're calculating my age, I was 10. I was 10. I was a prodigy. But what I would say is I was a sales representative. And not only was I a sales representative, I will tell you, I was a sales representative, and I grew up in Mississippi. And I was the child of two parents who were first generation going to college. My mom comes from a family of 12 kids, and she was the one and only person to go to school. My dad comes from a family of 10, and he was one of only 2. So neither one of my grandparents could read or write. But because of the power and the importance of education in my family, as well as this thought that there is nothing that you can't accomplish, I also grew up with 3 brothers, and I was the only girl. So I grew up with this whole sense, if my brothers got on the ground and wrestled, I'm going to get on the ground and wrestle. And so over the course of my career, starting as a rep and then moving up throughout the organization, people always, I think, valued my contribution. But there were times when people questioned, is she really right for this position? And the reason being is because I didn't have the right profile. So I did my undergraduate degree at Jackson State University, which is a historically black university, went on to get my graduate degree at Southern Methodist University. And even though, again, I was appreciated in the organization, I was able to perform in the organization, but I didn't have that right pedigree, if you will, or that background. And there were times when I thought I needed to leave the organization in order to get to that next level. But I just dug in. And instead of just leaving, I took a step back and I challenged the organization in a way where I was able to say, here's what I'm aspiring to do. And I always was reflective on my gaps in terms of what I needed to work on. And so I partnered very closely with leaders in the organization, and I said, okay, you tell me what is required to get to this destination role. Let's do a gap assessment to understand where I have proficiencies and where I have gaps. And where I have gaps, let's partner together to close those gaps. And I'm sharing this story, guys, because it's very easy sometimes with people who come from different backgrounds, different perspectives. If you don't necessarily look like the people in the room, they can value you, but they don't necessarily see you in that chair. And you have to appropriately push back. But you have to push back in a way that you bring people along with you. Acknowledge where you have things that you have to work on. And I've had the pleasure of working with people over the course of my career who've allowed me to do that and then partner with me on my purpose. And that's the last thing that I want to leave you with. So it was mentioned about my daughter. What you didn't hear is that my daughter, after 7 surgeries, after a stroke at 9, unfortunately passed away at the age of 11. And so at that moment, I moved from the division that I was in 2010 over to the vascular division because I wanted to be closer to a business that I thought met the needs of patients like my daughter. So you guys heard this morning about the stories. So I have a story. Some people don't know that story. All of you have a story. So I use my story as a way to take my pain and transition it into purpose. And so you don't necessarily have to lose a child in order to have purpose, but there's something in your story that you can use to galvanize you forward. And what I do is I use that purpose to help to drive innovation at Vascular. And certainly in my role, I have to be concerned about top line growth, have to be concerned about margin, market share. But what I do is I do it from the lens that every share we have, every point of revenue that you have, there's a patient behind it. There is a family behind it. And that is what I use to galvanize me. And so what I'm going to say to this room today, thank all of you for being part of this mission that we're part of because it matters. It's not just about a widget. It's not just about a technology. It's about people and lives and legacies and stories. And I ask everyone to tap into those stories to make sure that we're able to move this space forward. And my hope is that by mentoring with people, by supporting people, by elevating people, by working together, at the end of the day, we'll have just this group of passionate female leaders that will transform this industry. We'll make it more inclusive. We'll give people a seat at the table. We'll make sure that we include everybody who needs care. We'll include them in the tent to get that care. We'll make sure we have representation for people for clinical trials. We'll make sure that we have trialists that represent the communities that we serve. And by doing that, we will all be better together. So at the end of the day, I aspire to be like Ferolyn, to let the works that I've done speak for me, and I challenge all of us to do the same. Thank you.
Wow, can I just put that in a bottle and take it home? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I do believe you, Julia. Everyone here has a story. Not everyone has your delivery, though. Oh my gosh. Thank you.